Hello, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we will discuss about another very important certificate of the ship called the Safety Radio Certificate or the SAFRAD certificate. The SAFRAD certificate covers all the equipments on board which are used for radio communication as per the GMDSS requirements of the ITU or International Telecommunication Union. When a ship is sailing on the ocean, it is very important for the ship to be able to communicate with other ships as well as the shore based facilities like the VTS or vessel traffic controllers of different countries during the port entries or while passing through the territorial waters. Also, it is important that in case the ship is in distress or they need some kind of assistance from the shore, they should be able to communicate effectively with other ships and the shore parties. So, all the requirements are that a ship needs to follow in terms of radio communication are laid down in the solas uh, under the radio section, or to be precise, under Chapter 4 of the Solas. Before we deep dive into the contents of the Safety Radio Certificate, let us try to grasp a few important concepts. The first important concept is what are the different type of radio equipments that are on board a ship in terms of the operating principle of the equipments. So, the radio equipments can be divided broadly into two categories. One are the equipments which operate on the principle of radio frequencies. So, these are what we call as the VHF or very high frequency radio or radio telephony, HF or high frequency radio, MF or medium frequency radio. The second category of equipments are the ones which use satellite communication. So these are the equipments which use, normally there are like two satellites which they use. Either they use the Inmarsat or they use the Iridium network. So it is important to note that only Iridium and Inmarsat, these are the two satellite communication channels which are approved as per the GMDSS requirements. And if there's some other kind of, say, satellite communication on board, say you have an internet on board or maybe a Starlink on board, so even though these uh, modes of communication work fine almost all across the world, but these are not approved as per GMDSS. So if you have an internet on board, that can definitely help in additional communication or things like that, but it does not comply with the GMDSS requirements, and you always need to have either a Iridium or a Inmarsat connection on board. Additionally, uh, EPIRB of the ship, the emergency position indicating radio beacon. This works on a different satellite system which is called COSPAS SARSAT. The next important concept we need to understand is what are sea areas A1, A2, A3, and A4. So let us just consider a scenario. A vessel, is passing very close to the land, and there are shore stations on the land which are easily accessible via a VHF radio. So normally a VHF radio is, the range of the VHF radio is short, like it is approximately 20 to 50 nautical miles. So if the ship is within 20 to 50 nautical miles of the shore, it can communicate using a VHF radio, no problem. But if the ship goes away, like if the distance is more than 50 nautical miles, but say within 180 nautical miles, then the VHF cannot be used because the range of the VHF is not that much. But in that case, they may be able to use a MF or a medium frequency radio for communication. Similarly, if the range becomes even more, even if they go out even further out in the open sea, then the communication using the radio frequencies will not happen because the radio frequency range is just not there. In that case, they will have to rely on the satellite communication of, say, a Inmarsat or a Iridium for the communication. So, based on this principle, the whole navigable sea area of the world has been divided into four areas. They are called Sea Area A1, A2, A3, and A4. So, what is Sea Area A1? The Sea Area A1 is all the area that is adjacent to a land where there is a VHF radio station and the ship can easily communicate using a VHF radio. So 20 to 50 nautical miles away from a nearest shore station with which it can do a VHF communication. But when it goes further out in Sea Area A2, which is further away from the land, that is considered as the area where they can communicate using a MFHF, but a VHF communication may not be possible because, simple again, because of the range problem. Sea area A3 is a region where, so as you can see here, it is said that it is a area between 70° north and 70° south, right? So it is a area between these two latitudes, which are not Sea Area A1 and A2, and where in this area it is said that either a MFHF communication or a Inmarsat system communication is possible. Now, as all of some of you know that now the polar routes, that is the route through the north, near the north pole and the south pole, a lot of ships go there for expedition. Also shipping routes are being established through these areas, but the coverage of the Inmarsat or the Iridium satellite systems in these areas are not very good. So, if a ship wants to go in this area, that is uh, north of 70 degrees north or south of 70 degrees south latitude, then it is considered that the ship is in area A4, and the radio communication equipment have to be upgraded with additional features which will enable the ship to communicate even though it is in sea area A4, where the radio communication using VHFs is not possible because there's no shore station. Also, this area is out of the range of the Inmarsat or the Iridium network. So, in this picture, you can see a very good diagrammatic representation of these sea areas A1, A2, A3. So as you can see, the picture shows the different ranges. So when one ship is near the land, the VH communication using VHF is possible, but when it goes out of that, when it is a little bit away from the shore, that is in area A2, the communication is only possible using MFHF and the Inmarsat satellite communication. Also, at the same time, you can see that if a ship is in distress and the EPIRB is activated, the signal is sent to the shore using a separate satellite system, which is the COSPAS SARSAT. So I think this diagram should give you a fair bit of idea about the sea areas and what are the challenges and why we are saying the ocean into like sea area A1, A2, A3, A4. The next slide is just shows a brief snapshot of the different equipments which needs to be fitted on board, like while operating in a particular sea area. So you see, like, if you are in sea area A1, you need a portable VHF, you need a MFHF. But if you are only exclusively trading in sea area A1, you do not need to have a satellite communication or an Inmarsat on board. Similarly, in A1, you do not need to have a MFHF on board. But this ship then has to be always operating in sea area A1. This is, say there's a bunker barge which only is operating in Singapore, near Singapore, and doing bunkering of the larger ships. They can be considered in sea area A1, and just a basic VHF radio and a HF radio, that should be sufficient for them. Of course, they need to have a EPIRB and SAT on board. Similarly, if we go to area A2, also you can see the ship needs to have a MFHF on board, but again, the Inmarsat or satellite communication is not required. But as soon as we hit sea area A3, the ship compulsorily needs to have the satellite communication on board. And similarly, when it goes to sea area A4, the requirements become more stringent, or the equipments that are fitted on board need to have additional features or capabilities in them to operate in that polar regions with very limited access of radio or internet communicate, or I mean Inmarsat communication. Okay, the next important concept that we need to understand is the when you are having all these radio equipments on board and you are operating the radio equipments, you are effectively using your ship as a mobile earth ship or a mobile earth radio station. Hence, you need to have a radio license for operating these equipments. Who issues this radio license? The radio license is always issued by the flag state of the ship. So once a ship is bought and registered with the flag state, so along with your uh, certificate of registry, safety manning certificate, one of the certificate which is always issued by the flag is the radio license. This cannot be issued by a class society and has to be exclusively issued by the flag administration. Second thing is, as most of you know, that in previous, like if you go back 30, 40 years, the ships used to carry a radio tech or a radio uh, technician on board who was designated the duties of operating the radio equipments. But with passage of time, the radio equipments on board are now be used by the navigating officers, like a second officer, a third officer, chief officer, captain. Everyone can use this radio equipments, but to be qualified to use this, they need to have a GMDSS license. So, like, you know, they go and study to get a third, like a second mate's license, a chief mate's license, a captain's license. Similarly, as soon as they go to for their second mate exams, one of the things they also have to do is pass a exam, which fulfills all the requirements of a GMDSS radio uh, operator, and they get a certificate from the country from where they have given the exam. And before they join the ship, the flag state also issues a certificate of, an acknowledgement of that certificate. So for example, if you are from India and you have given your COC exams from India, so you would have got a GMDSS license from India, from the Indian government. And this is always like on the operators level. And then when, say, you join a Liberian flagship, the Liberian flag will give an endorsement to this GMDSS license, uh, which effectively means that the certificate that is given by the Indian certificate by the Indian administration is also accepted by Liberia, and Liberian government is happy to have you on board and do the duties of the GMDSS radio operator. Okay. The third thing is, every year you see that radio technicians come on board and do a annual, annual inspection or a annual service of the radio equipments. So the technicians who come on board to do this service, they need to carry certain qualifications. So they normally also have to go to an institute and get trained, and they get what you call as a GOC license. And the company, the radio service company for whom they work, these companies also have to go to classification society and get their whole operations, their quality management system, everything audited, and receive the certificate as an approved service supplier. Now we will try to have a look at the contents of the radio certificate. So similar to the safety equipment certificate, the safety radio certificate also has two parts. One is the certificate itself, and the second part is the record of the radio equipments, or what we call as a Form R. So that has been highlighted here on the top. You can see. Next is radio certificate is a statutory certificate always issued by the flag state or by a classification society on behalf of the flag state. So again, after that you can see the particulars of the ship, the name of the ship, the distinctive letters. So this is also something important. So when a ship receives a radio license, it also receives a call sign, or we can call it a distinctive letter or call sign. So it is a combination of letters, numbers, something like that. So a ship's call sign can be like VZA2. So that's a call sign. So in case of an emergency, when they are trying to contact other ships or the shore stations, this call sign is assigned to the ship, and as soon as the shore facilities or other ships receive this call sign or they see this call sign, they can track and get the whole history of the ship, that what is the name of the ship, which country it is registered, and all the details of the ship. So that's also very important, call sign or distinctive letters. Next, as you can see, port of registry, gross tonnage, and then here you can see what we explained previously, sea areas for which the ship is certified to operate. So if you are only certified for A1, say you are operating around Singapore and your certificate says you are only certified for A1, and for one fine voyage, you want to go to, say, Australia, can you do that? No, you cannot, because when you are taking the voyage from Singapore to Australia, you are going out of sea area A1 into say area A2 and A3, and your ship's equipments are not enough for that. In that case, what has to be done is the missing equipments which are on board, they have to be fitted on board, and a survey has to be done, and a new certificate, or safety radio certificate, has to be issued, which says now the ship is certified for sea area A1, A2, A3, and then and only after then you can take that voyage from Singapore to Australia. So if your certificate says A1, A2, A3, you can freely operate in A1 area, A2 area, A3 area, but you cannot go into A4. For again, the same, if you want to go to A4, the additional requirements have to be met and a new certificate has to be issued. So the next thing is if you go into the certificate, the next section, it says that The ship complies with all the requirements of the convention in terms of radio installations. And also, the two things here it's highlighted is uh, that the ship complies with all the requirements of radio installation in terms of radio communication. That is in 2.1. And in 2.2, it says radio installations for life saving appliances. So 2.1 would be your VHF, HF, MFHF, your Inmarsat, etc. But when 2.2 it says about life saving appliances, what we are indicating is the SART and the EPIRB of the ship. So the certificate clearly states that all of this is complied with. Next, again, you can see in the certificate, like every statutory certificate, it will say the completion date of the survey on which this certificate is based, which is the renewal, the date of the last renewal survey. That's the date when this, the certificate is based on that uh, date, the last renewal survey date. Yeah, and then there's like the issued at the place where the certificate has been issued. And since it is a statutory certificate, there will be four periodic surveys. So it is interesting to note that for radio certificate we do not call it a annual survey, it is called a periodical survey. And the reason is that before the harmonized system of certification came in, the radio certificate validity was always 1 year. you know like every year there was a renewal survey and a new certificate was issued. But after, and then after the all the solar certificates were brought under the harmonized system, this certificate was also extended to make the validity like 5 years. So the renewal survey is now carried out every 5 years. But there are, for year 2, 3, 4, there are four annual or four periodical surveys which is done every year for the first, second, third, and fourth year. Fifth year there is no periodical survey. Fifth year is again a renewal survey and a new certificate is issued. So uh, the idea is it is not called an annual survey and called a periodical survey because it was initially the certificate's validity was 1 year. And just to keep a historical significance of that, I think it is being called a periodical survey. Next in the certificate we can see, the next part is the form R. So here it is important to note that the certificate says about primary systems and secondary systems. Okay, so say you have again, say you are a ship which is operating in sea area A1, A2. So you may say that my primary system of communication is my VHF radio. So but what if my radio, VHF radio fails? So always, normally, there's not one, but a ship would have two VHF radios. But what if both of them fail? Then you need to have a secondary means of communication. So this secondary means of communication can be, say, your Inmarsat satellite. That can be a secondary means of communication. Or maybe a second set of MFHF radio. That can be your secondary mean of communication. But the important thing to understand is there are two modes of communication. One is designated as primary and the other is secondary. Again, uh, say you are in C area A1 and you have a VHF radio. Your VHF radio needs to be equipped with a few features. What are them? If you can see in 1.1, it says DSC encoder, and it also, the next one says DSC watch receiver, and number 3 is radio telephony. So your VHF radio needs to be equipped with DSC encoder. Encoder means the ability for you to transmit a message transmit maybe a general message or a emergency message, something like that. DSC watchkeeper means your ability to receive uh, transmissions uh, which have been transmitted by other ships. Radio telephony means the ability to talk. Receiving messages is a separate thing. You receive a message, you see the message. But radio telephony means you can pick up the walkie talkie and talk to the other ship. So you know these are also, if you see in MF radio, in MFHF radio, all of them have these features. In If you see 1.3.4 MFHF radio, it also says direct printing telegraphy. So this is an additional feature where the message, you can not only see the message, but you have a printer which prints out the message for you. Okay. Next is also other things that are given is like a NAVTEX receiver, that is also included in this. EGC receiver, this is also included in the radio certificate. And of course your EPUB. So if you are using a Cosmos SAT EPUB, then that would be mentioned. If you are using a VHF EPUB, that would be mentioned. Okay. Next is again, so after EPUB, in the next page, it tells about the SAT of the ship. It is, if it is a normal SAT, then that's mentioned. If it is a AIS SAT, then that's mentioned. Okay. The next section, if you see number 3, there are a few things which says duplication of equipment. So based on your trading area, there is a requirement of duplicating the equipment or not. So say if you are in C area A1, there may be no requirement to duplicate a equipment. You may have one VHF radio, and if that goes bad, you can quickly come ashore, get it repaired or something. But if you are in C area A2 and A3, where it is not possible for you to quickly come back and repair the equipment, then you need to have a duplication of equipment. And if you have a duplication of equipment, this will be mentioned that yes, there's a duplication of equipment. Second is, there are two options. One is shore based maintenance, another is sea based maintenance. Normally, for all the ships that I have seen, they all choose shore based maintenance, which means that the ship's management company will have a contract with a radio technical company ashore, and that radio technical company will every year come on the board and do maintenance of all the radio equipments. However, if a company chooses to have the at sea maintenance capability, then they will have to put crew on board who are certified to carry out the maintenance of the equipment, or effectively who carry the same GOC certificate that the shore based maintenance staff carries. But in my experience, I have never seen a ship which has opted for this uh, at sea maintenance capabilities, and it is always a shore based maintenance thing. So that is pretty much it, and it brings us to the end of our present video. I hope the video was informative. You guys liked it, and if you like the video, please share with your friends. Subscribe to the channel, and if I added some value, please like the video. Thank you so much. Have a good day.